Now, 3 days away from the trade deadline, Knicks reportedly one of those teams in the mix interested in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Shams, where do we stand right now with the Bucks and Giannis and trade talks?
So, Amina, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been ready, is prepared for his exit from the Milwaukee Bucks, whether it's at the NBA trade deadline or in the offseason. I'm told in the Bucks, as of this weekend, entering Monday, a few days away from the trade deadline, they are engaged with rival teams and making counteroffers to the aggressive proposals. But the big question around the NBA is, will the Bucks move Giannis? That is the biggest domino that this league has right now. It impacts several teams. The Bucks are sifting through proposals specifically from the Heat, Wolves, Knicks, and Warriors. And throughout the whole process, the Bucks have wanted a young blue chip talent and or a surplus of draft picks. And so my understanding is the Warriors have made a pick-heavy offer. Minnesota is more of a player-centric offer. And Miami is somewhere in the middle, somewhere between players and picks. And so the Bucks are going to have to choose. Do we take one of these offers? They're going to continue to negotiate, or can there potentially be more in the offseason? But the biggest conflict is also with where the Bucks season is at. They're 11 games under 500. They've now plummeted outside of any real play-in contention. You probably have to play for your draft pick. Yeah. And Giannis wants to play when he's back from his calf injury. He wants to compete. He wants to play for a second championship. And so will there be risk reward, potentially hurting your draft pick? And then in the offseason, when Giannis has 1 year left on his deal, the Bucks are going to cede a lot of control to him depending on where he wants to play. So there's a lot to sift through in Milwaukee. Their executives, their ownership is going to sift through today and the coming days.
This could happen at the trade deadline or during the offseason. I'm rooting for a little bit of chaos. Shams Charania with the latest. Thanks so much, Shams.
NBA trade deadline, and the major story is ongoing. It's the Giannis Antetokounmpo saga. Will he stay? Will he go? Where will he go if he does? Reports out of Milwaukee are that the Bucks are indeed listening to offers for the MVP, with the Heat, Warriors, Knicks, and Timberwolves being the leading teams right now. But for much more on this and other trade rumors, let's go ahead and welcome in our own John Gonzalez and Sam Quinn for more. Gentlemen, great to see you. Let's start now, John, with where things stand right now as the top landing spot for Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks kind of came to this one a little bit late here, Jordan, because for a while they were saying we're not going to trade Giannis, and Giannis had said he didn't want to ask for a trade, and then a week before the trade deadline, all of a sudden the Bucks were, listening to trade offers, listening to trade offers for Giannis. So I think if they're going to move him by Thursday, the simplest place for him to go and the place that makes the most sense and that would yield a pretty good return would be the Golden State Warriors. They're 8th in the Western Conference. They're almost top 10 in both offense and defense. They just lost Jimmy Butler for the season with an ACL injury. He's under contract for another year. And they're also sitting on top of Jonathan Kuminga, who's still only 23 years old and has fallen out of favor for some time now with Steve Kerr. The Bucks could get back Jonathan Kuminga and up to 4 first-round picks that the Warriors have to offer. And then from the Warriors' perspective, look, Steph Curry's 37 years old, right? He's going to turn 38 in March. He's still a really good player, but there's only so many more seasons that he has left. You want to maximize those. You bring in the best available player that you possibly could and pair him with Steph and Giannis. They would be, I think, a seamless fit together. And now, look, the West is absolutely loaded, but that makes the Warriors an awfully interesting team in a loaded Western Conference, where now if you're one of those other teams, you don't want any part of that. So, yeah, I'm sending Giannis to Golden State.
Yeah, if Giannis is going to get traded before the deadline, there are two teams that feel pretty likely. One is Golden State, like John mentioned. The other would be Miami. Miami doesn't have quite as many picks to trade as the Warriors do. They can only offer 2 and some swaps, but they do have more player value to offer with Kel'el Ware, very promising young big man, great athlete. You give him more of an on-ball opportunity in Milwaukee, see if he could grow. He's very, very skilled. Tyler Hero, recent All-Star, Wisconsin native. They've got a bunch of younger players on that roster that they can send out. Those are the two teams that are in this right now that you figure Giannis would be okay staying with. I'd love to sit here and tell you that he's going to go to Portland. Portland has all of those Milwaukee picks in the coming years. I'm not confident enough to say that Giannis would extend there. So given the teams that actually have assets to trade and that Giannis would presumably want to play for, Miami and Golden State seem by far like the two likeliest destinations.
All right, we will find out soon enough where he is headed. Let's get to Ja Morant now, you guys. It's been reported that Memphis is entertaining offers for the 2-time All-Star. Not super surprising after months of tension, if you will, between Morant and the Grizzlies and that coaching staff. We did see the social media message he put out on X a few days ago, saying time tells the truth. A little cryptic there. We'll read into that however you want, but where do you expect Morant to land, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect him to stay in Memphis more than anything. It's just a very hard contract to trade, given his decline as a player. You know, the fact that he doesn't get to the rim as much anymore, not as effective a scorer near the basket, that's a big problem because the entire proposition of Ja Morant as an all-star caliber player is that he generates elite rim pressure. If that's not the case, I don't know how many teams are eager to pay him max money. The one team that I do think makes some sense would be the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat are focused on Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. If the Heat are getting Giannis, they're probably not trading for Ja Morant as well. So Giannis does need to play out. If he does wind up elsewhere or not getting moved, I could see Miami pivoting to Ja Morant. They do need more of a star scorer type. You know, their offense this year, despite the change to a system that feels pretty similar to the one that Memphis ran last season, has kind of declined as the season has gone on. Miami does have a very good history of kind of rehabilitating players that have lost value over the years. I think they could get Ja Morant in the building, give him more structure, rebuild the offense around him, and hopefully get him back on track.
Yeah, I'll throw one more out there, too. The Raptors were initially reported to be interested in Ja Morant. Since then, they've supposedly cooled off on him, but it could be some combination of Emmanuel Quickley and R.J. Barrett. But the Raptors are playing pretty well right now, and I think I'd rather have Emmanuel Quickley for sure. I know that they've been trying to move R.J. Barrett for a while now, but if I'm the Raptors, I don't think I'm going to tinker just for Ja Morant. I'm with Sam. I don't see a huge market for Ja Morant here. Point guard is the deepest position in the NBA. There are ball-dominant guards everywhere. The Hawks moved Trae Young for C.J. McCollum's expiring contract and Corey Kispert. And then on top of that, you have his injury history. Ja Morant has only played 20 games this season. He's a 31% shooter from three. Sam mentioned he doesn't get to the rim nearly as much as he used to. Well, that outside shot is lousy, and he hasn't ever decided that he wanted to work on that. And then on top of all of that, he's owed $87 million over the next couple of years. So you put all those things together, and I just really, even if Miami was interested or even if the Raptors got back into it, I don't think he's going to yield a big price. I think more likely than not, he ends up staying put in Memphis.
All right, let's look elsewhere, you guys, because this week plenty of eyes are on Dallas and Mavericks Anthony Davis. John.
All right, Dub Nation, let's talk about this Ja Morant to the Warriors rumor. Because whether you love it or hate it, this is one of those stories that hits way deeper than just another possible trade. This one feels emotional, risky, and honestly a little uncomfortable if you're a real Warriors fan. First of all, the fact that Ja Morant's name is even being linked to Golden State already tells you a lot about where this franchise is mentally right now. This isn't the 2016 Warriors. This isn't the we're ahead of the league Warriors. This is a team that knows the clock is ticking on Steph Curry and is clearly looking around the league saying, we need something bold, we need something different, and we need it fast. Ja Morant represents chaos and hope at the same time. That's the perfect way to describe it. On one hand, you're talking about a former superstar, an explosive guard, one of the most electric players of his generation when he's right. On the other hand, you're talking about injuries, inconsistency, off-court noise, and a massive contract that scares half the league. So when you hear Warriors might be interested in Ja Morant, the real question isn't, is Ja good? The real question is, are the Warriors desperate enough to take a gamble this big? Because that's exactly what this would be, a gamble. Ja on the Warriors is not some safe, logical, championship formula move. This is a swing for the fences, last resort type of idea. This is the kind of move you consider when you know the easy options are gone, when there's no perfect star available, when Giannis is probably too expensive, when other stars are locked into their teams, and you're left looking at the market thinking, who can still move the needle? Ja is one of the few names left that still feels like a needle mover. But here's where it gets complicated. The Warriors' entire identity for over a decade has been built around structure, culture, discipline, and selfless basketball. That's not just marketing, that's real. Steph, Clay, Draymond, Kerr, this organization has always valued control. Control of the locker room, control of the system, control of egos. Ja Morant is the opposite of control. He's emotional, he's impulsive, he's a rhythm player, he needs the ball. He plays best when everything revolves around him. That's not a criticism, that's just reality. Ja's game is about pressure, pace, and freedom. The Warriors' game is about movement, spacing, and reading the system. So the big fear is obvious. Does Ja Morant fit the Warriors, or would the Warriors end up trying to fit Ja? Because those are two very different scenarios. If Ja comes in and adapts, buys into the system, plays off Steph, becomes more of a slasher, secondary creator, and downhill threat, then yeah, it could be terrifying for the league. Imagine Steph running around screens while Ja attacks the paint. Imagine defenses having to choose between stopping the greatest shooter ever or the most explosive guard in the league. That's nightmare fuel. But if Ja needs the ball, needs isolation, needs to dominate possessions, then suddenly you're messing with the very thing that makes the Warriors special. You're not adding to the system, you're rewriting it. And that's where this becomes dangerous. Because this isn't just about this season. This is about the end of the Steph Curry era. Every move from now on is judged by one question only. Does this give Steph a real chance to compete for one more ring? Not 2 rings, not 5 years of dominance, just one more real run. That's why fans are so divided. Some people see Ja Morant and think this is the kind of bold move we need. Others see Ja and think this is how you destroy everything we built. And honestly, both sides have a point. Ja Morant today is not the same Ja Morant from 2 years ago. He's been hurt, his efficiency dropped, his three-point shot is still shaky. His ability to get to the rim isn't as automatic as it used to be. And when your entire value is built on rim pressure, that's a serious red flag. You're not trading for peak Ja. You're trading for a version of Ja that still needs to prove he can get back to that level. So from the Warriors' perspective, this is not a sure thing trade. This is a bet that your culture, your coaches, your leaders, especially Steph and Draymond, can stabilize him, refocus him, and unlock that version again. That's a huge responsibility to put on your core. And it also says something uncomfortable. Maybe the Warriors don't see many better options left. When a franchise starts flirting with high-risk stars, it usually means the safe paths are gone. It means draft picks won't save you in time. It means internal development isn't enough. It means the window is closing and you can feel it. That's exactly how this feels. This rumor doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like urgency. It feels like a front office looking at the league and saying, we can't waste another year of Steph. Even if it's risky, we have to try something. And that's why this story hits so hard. Because it's not really about Ja Morant. It's about the fear of decline, the fear of becoming irrelevant, the fear of watching Steph still play at an elite level while the team around him slowly collapses. Ja Morant is just the symbol of that fear. He's the embodiment of, we need a star, any star, before it's too late. If this trade ever actually happens, it will be one of the most emotional moments in recent Warriors history. Not because it guarantees success, but because it confirms something deeper. The dynasty phase is officially over, and now we're in the survival phase. This is no longer about building something perfect, it's about keeping something alive. And that's why Ja Morant to the Warriors feels so intense, so controversial, and so uncomfortable. Because deep down, every Warriors fan knows the truth. If you're even considering a move like this, it means you're running out of time.